Welcome to the Heart of a Viking. These art lessons are taught by Mrs. Minto from the Cape Henlopen School District in Delaware. I hope you have fun, create imaginative works of art, and make sure you share them with someone because, after all, the visual arts are meant to be seen. So, 5th grade artists, we are about to embark on a super awesome adventure. And this adventure is going to lead us into creating our own mini art gallery that features at least 3 works of art made by you, my favorite artist. Anyway, so to begin this, we need to really understand what an art gallery or an art museum really is. So, an art gallery and an art museum both show works of art. Now, since they are showing works of art, they might be 2D or they might be 3D. In this picture right here, the 2D works of art are all hanging on the wall. They're flat. They only have a front that's interesting. The 3D works of art are sitting on the black pedestals in the front. Those works of art are 3D because you can view them from many different sides. Both art museums and art galleries would both have 2D and 3D works of art. Another similarity is that the artists that show their artwork might be famous. They might be famous to the whole world, or they might be just famous in a certain city. But either way, someone is showing artwork that's famous. Now, one of the differences is size, really. An art gallery is going to be a lot smaller, and an art museum is going to be a lot larger. And finally, one of the last differences is that an art gallery will have artwork for sale, because a lot of times the artists who show their work in a gallery are still living artists, still creating. So they would be willing to sell their works of art. Most works of art in a museum won't be for sale. So now the works of art that you're going to make first for your own art gallery are the 2D works of art. We're going to make a landscape and a non-objective work of art. All right, so let's begin and see if you remember what a landscape is. All right, so here is a picture of a landscape. It says that a landscape is a piece of art where land is the subject. There can be other things in it too, like this one has some water, whether it's a pond or the ocean or a lake. But either way, as long as land is the main subject, we can consider it a landscape. Here are a few more. All right, so now for your work of art today, we're going to be creating our own little mini work of art. This paper I have is pretty tiny. I'm showing you with my roller. It's about 4.5 inches wide, and it's only about 3 inches tall. So you need a pretty small work of art here today. In addition, I'm going to make sure that I'm working horizontally. That means that my paper is placed long in front of me. All right, who remembers what this line is called? It's that really important line that separates the sky from the ground. Do you remember? Okay, it's called the horizon line. It separates the sky from the ground. Now, before you go any further, draw your horizon line, but I also need for you to think of or find a landscape that you would like to draw. So I always have a little bit of trouble imagining realistic locations, like a desert. Really, that's what I want my subject to be. So instead of going from memory, I'm going to use my iPad and I'm going to find a picture of a desert that I think is something that I can draw and be comfortable and confident in creating. After I find that picture, then I'm going to use it as my inspiration. I don't have to draw it exactly like it's pictured, but I'm going to draw it as similar as I possibly can. Alright, so here I go. Using my pencil, I'm drawing lightly just in case I need to erase at any point, and I'm going to just sort of sketch in the landscape as I see it in my picture I'm looking at from my iPad. Okay, so now before we even talk about color, I want you to check a couple of things. I'd like for you to check to make sure that your landscape has an object or objects that are in the foreground. Foreground are things that are the closest. I have a cactus that's in the front of mine. It's the one that's closest to the bottom edge of the paper. Then I want you to check to see if you have some things in the middle ground. That means they're getting up a little higher on the paper, closer to the horizon line. But they're not all the way in the back. And then I do want you to check to see if there's something in the background. My hills are in the background, and the sky too, actually. Okay, check yours and make sure you have something in the foreground, in the middle ground, and in the background. Now it's on to adding color. I'm going to use colored pencils to add color to mine. I like colored pencils for artworks that are really small like this. Crayons just tend to be a little bit too big to fill in some of these small spaces, and markers are just not my favorite coloring tools. I love to outline with markers, but they're just not my favorite coloring tool. Colored pencils really do a great job in this type of artwork. So now, again, using my picture I have on my iPad, I'm using it as my guide as to what colors I need to use. Here are a couple of colored pencil tips that will help you make yours look more realistic as well. First, use more than one color in each space. So right now, I'm working on the hills that are in the far, far background, and I colored them with a light peachy kind of color first. Now I'm using a light brown color to color on top. And what I'm doing is I'm blending my own custom color that's a lot more accurate and closer to the color of the real hills in the picture I'm looking at. So I'm using my pencils on top of each other to create my own custom colors. In addition, if you watch how I hold my pencils, sometimes I hold them straight up and down when I want to color a sharp line or someplace that's really dark. And other times I almost lie my pencil completely down and I use the side of the sharpened tip to color with. And I do that to create a softer, smoother sort of look. So I encourage you to try and do both of those things too. Use the point when you want a sharp or a darker color, and use the side of your pencil when you want a smoother, more sort of blended color. And then finally, realize that color in the foreground, so those cactuses at the bottom, should be darker and brighter and more detailed, and the colors that are far back in the distance should be softer and more muted. That means you're not pressing quite as hard and you're using colors that are a little bit more soft, not colors that are sharp and bold. All right, let's see how mine goes, and then I can't wait to check in on you. To take my time when I'm coloring, so I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit, not going to make you watch me color this whole thing. So as I jump ahead, you'll see that I advanced a little bit in what the things that I've colored so far, and I'm just going to finish up now with you making the things that are in the foreground here. I'm making them dark and bold. I'm using multiple colors every single time in every single space. I'm sometimes pressing hard, sometimes light, sometimes holding my pencil straight up and down, sometimes using it on its side, and I'm just about done. Well, there we have it. So I followed all of my own recommendations. I used more than one color in each space. I made sure I had things in the foreground, middle ground, background. I sometimes held my pencil upright, so I got those dark colors, sometimes held it on its side, getting those softer colors. And I think it turned out pretty fantastic. I really like this landscape. All right, so put this landscape in a safe spot. Keep it, don't lose it. Come back next week at the same time, and you and I will start making our non-objective works of art. So don't lose this one. Come back next week, and we're going to continue moving forward until we have our own 3D art gallery filled with our own personal artwork. See you back here next time at the Heart of a Viking.